Hello and welcome to another episode of The Power in Your Story, where I interview entrepreneurs and we take a deep dive into the story that drove them and powers them now with the passion, the drive to be doing the work that they do with their particular audience. I'm Marianne, and I've had over 20 years in the world of communication, helping people with confident speaking, speaking with clarity, consistency, and most importantly, being themselves. It's so easy for us to speak, but to speak somebody else's story. And so when we're aligned with ourselves, we're comfortable about what we're doing, then the power is shown in our voice and we reach and connect with other people more strongly. And there's nothing more strong than the stories that you have to tell. So come and join me while we have a deep dive. I am thrilled to be introducing you to Sonia Weyers. And Sonia, did I mispronounce your name?
No, you did not. How do I say? Sorry. People usually say Sonia Weyers in the US, but the way you said it is fine. I recognize myself.
You recognize yourself. It's a bit like my name, Mary, and some people say Mary, but I still know it's me. So thank you very much for your patience there.
You're welcome.
And for once, this is a treat because we're only across the channel at the moment, aren't we? Which is quite something. I think we're both used to talking to at least across the pond in America. So this really is a treat. And Sonia is really your happiness guide, which I think is a wonderful, wonderful title. And we all want more happiness in our lives, don't we? To be happy, whatever is a goal for all of us and very fulfilling. So welcome, Sonia.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for this introduction, and I'm happy to be here and have this talk with you.
So Sonia, it's a lovely title, Happiness Guide. It's a sort of it gets me interested the minute you mention that, because again, happiness is something we all tend to seek. How long have you been an entrepreneur and actually working with happiness?
Well, it depends how you count, really, but I started working as a therapist in 2008, where I help people with whatever they're struggling with, really, usually from their past, but sometimes it's the present, but the past is rearing its head there somewhere. And so I help people come to terms with things and find new ways of being in the world and with those issues, and find, what I like to call your true happiness. So I like what you say, being yourself. It's like whatever happiness means to you, but there's the notion of authenticity that's really important there. So I started working as a therapist. I realized after some years that something I'd done before is I'd done scrapbooking workshops with people. And that was really the premise of my work, to bring happiness to people, because for people to bring to life their photographic memories was really happiness boosting. And I just kind of connected the dots backwards much later. But so that, and so then I've been also working now on a more personal development, personal growth line of work, online mostly, where I have some programs and some things to offer to people. And this I started working on, I'd say 5-6 years ago, but build up very, very slowly. And now I'm getting more traction, if you want, and more clues also how to do that, and also more clarity on what I want to offer and how, and how to best help people who are not particularly in the therapy world, because people who come to therapy they're really struggling, but then there's a whole other category of people who are just like not quite, life's not quite what they want, but there's nothing particularly stinging, badly. But it's just kind of more blah, or, wanting something more. And so that's a different.
Just missing something, but nothing. It doesn't seem as if your life's in a ruin, but I think most of us can associate that, there's often just something a piece of the puzzle that might be missing. I love the fact you did scrapbooks. That's a lovely idea. So you actually help people.
Well, I don't do that anymore, but I did that for a few years in between. Scrapbooking was a bridge career for me.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
what actually, so I know you worked as and still do work as a therapist, but sort of in the entrepreneurial world, what attracted you to helping people find their happiness, their true happiness?
Well, the real root of that is, my own personal journey, because I wasn't like, I know some people who were some therapists and coaches who are naturally happy people and who want to help others find their happiness too. In my case, it was a long, long journey for me to find my own happiness. And, it's from that journey, like seeing what's possible, actually, the transformation that's possible.
Yeah. That's
where I got the want, the desire, the urge to tell people, come on, guys, it's now. It's now
or never.
Well, it's not now or never, but why wait? Like, it's not now or never. Tomorrow's good too, but why wait till tomorrow? Actually, don't you want to enjoy tomorrow?
Well, it's always in the now, isn't it? You've got to grab the opportunity, because I just wonder sometimes with happiness, we'll say, when I've done such and such, then I'll be happy, or when I move to this house, or when I do this. And I think what you're actually saying, well, it's in the moment, it's now. And that's
usually, yes, when people are feeling, whether they're feeling the pain that drives them to therapy, or just the, the blah that has them looking for something more, that's happening in the now, right? It's like, it's my pain now, and then the next now, and then too many nows in a row that drives me to finally pick up the phone or to look for something on the internet, right? So it really is, there's something about now. Yeah. If you're not liking your life now, then what are you waiting for?
So tell me, Jack got it is correct. You've really, it's your own journey. I think you've sort of described it as quite a long journey that gave you a lot of insights about the importance of happiness. So perhaps you could give us some insights into that journey.
Absolutely, I would love to do that. I'll preface by saying that there was nothing that was really visible on the outside. Like I was an only child of my parents who had wanted me. There was not, we were not in a war zone. Like my parents we had a comfortable living where, we weren't lacking particularly, but there was something amiss, really amiss in my relationship with my mother. Through no ill intention of hers. She was not a bad person. I could say this now, long after the fact, but there was something, if you know, or if your listeners have heard of the mirror stage in developmental psychology, it's like babies learn who they are by having the reflection on the eyes of their caretakers, basically. And that's how you learn, you're like, and then your mom says, oh, your stomach hurts. And then you understand that feeling is your stomach hurts, and so it goes.
So we're almost using our caretakers as our voice and interpretation to the world and to ourselves.
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, the image I like to take is that for me, that mirror was cracked, like something to do with how my mom's brain was wired. But anyway, the first story that I could tell about that is when I'm about 10 years old, and I can't remember what had happened, but I'd run up to my room and I'd gotten in bed and started crying, and my parents both followed me, and my dad asked me what's going on. And through my tears, I said to him, my mom doesn't understand me. And this was like a deep pain in my chest, that I tell this story in my TEDx talk, where I talk about forgiveness and how, forgiving my mother radically changed my life. But be that as it may, at the time, there was something really not right. And I was 9 or 10. I didn't really understand it. And so I was not, you know, I was not a depressed child. I was not a sick child, but there was this thing not right. And, you know, at adolescence, it came out. And then by the time I was 19, I think I started going to therapy myself. But, you know, it takes some amount of openness to start on a journey like that, because it, you know, in some sense, it does get a little worse before it gets better as you unpack all the things that are,
Can I just
that are,
ask you, when you,
yeah.
you sort of 9 or 10, you burst and said quite a powerful statement for a 10-year-old to your dad. How did he react, and what was he able to say to you?
I'm not sure. I mean, I remember seeing the empathy in his eyes, but my mom was sitting right behind him, and I could see on her face, you know, that she really didn't. And so there was this, you know, my dad understood that my mom didn't understand me. You know, that hurt his heart to some extent. And, you know, he and I, my parents are both, have both passed away now, but, you know, I was able, but I'll get to, in a little bit, I'll get to the story of how that was at the end.
Sure.
But so I launched on a long journey of therapy, you know, which took enough openness on my part to do that, you know, to not, because you can, it's easy to stay in the blame, right? You know, my mom, because of my mom, I'm unhappy. Well, you know what? If I'm unhappy because of my mom, I'm stuck being unhappy. So,
Very powerful, isn't it? Yeah.
And then years and years of therapy, right? Over decades. And so a lot of introspection and a lot of, you know, getting some understanding, getting some clarity actually on what, you know, who my mom was, what she did, what she didn't do, what her reality might be, and then what my reality is with that, and then learning new ways of being and new ways of doing, and getting really more clarity about who I was, which was, you know, the big mystery from all of that. You know, it was a big journey for me to get some insight into what I like, what I want, what drives me, you know, because if you don't know what you want, then what are your chances of getting it? If you think about that. So yeah, so more clarity. And then also on that path, you know, I hear a lot of people who have like things in their past, or not even in their distant past necessarily, but, you know, their spouse, their colleague, whatever, or their mom and dad, yes, who really hold a grudge, right? And, or who resist the way things are. And so that was also an important part of my journey to really let it go, to like really take things as they are. Like my mom, you know, I will never have the relationship with my mom that I want to have, that I wanted to have. But if I can just accept my mom the way she is, then maybe I have a shot of having a relationship with her. And when in 2018, in early 2018, both my parents, so I'm an only child, and both of my parents started declining. My mom had cognitive decline, and my dad had a lot of physical ailments, and he had to have surgery, and she didn't deal well with being without him. And there were times, so I remember Easter Sunday in 2018, my dad had his, I don't know, 5th surgery of the year. And she and I were together, and we spent just a lovely day. Like we went and she liked to sew. So we went to get an embroidery, and we embroidered together a Easter chicken. You know, she did the lines and I did the turns. And, you know, we had just a wonderful, wonderful time. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that had I not done this journey, this moment would have not been available to me.
Wow.
And so fast forward a few months, things went pretty fast with them, and I moved. They lived in Belgium and I live here in France, and I moved them to a retirement home near me. My dad continued to have some physical issues. My mom continued to decline. But I think it's December 15th, and I'm there over at my house for tea. And I talked to my mom, like she's not talking anymore, hardly at all. And my dad's really exhausted from all his physical ailments. And really distraught of seeing my mom like that. And so I'm talking to her like, would you like some tea? Yes or no? And my dad's like, don't bother. She's not going to answer. I was like, leave me alone. Like, I'm not talking to her for her to respond. I'm just talking to her, right? I'm offering her tea. And so I asked her if she wanted tea, and then I asked her if she wanted milk or sugar. And she answered me that afternoon, not once, but 3 times. It was yes, it was no, it was four, but she actually answered me 3 times. And my dad, if I'd listened to my dad, I wouldn't have spoken to her, and I wouldn't, have heard her. And then when I sat across the table from her, I saw she was looking at me, and I had my glasses, these glasses actually, and I lifted my glasses and she smiled at me.
Wow.
And my dad was moved to tears. And that was actually the last time that she came to my house, because then I went to the Gambia to spend Christmas with my daughter who was there, and my mom passed away while I was there. So when I say, now is what you got, you don't know what you got later.
Yes.
And that, that is really a wonderful memory, because it's, it's the last time that my mom was at my house. I saw her one more time after that. But something was possible because I was willing to experiment, to experience something, and even to experience speaking to her and having her not respond, right? It didn't matter to me whether she responded.
That's beautiful. Such a powerful story and moment. And as you said, it sounds that you'd made the decision that one way or another, you wanted some sort of relationship with your mum. You weren't going to let it go without that. And so you decided to experiment in how you could have one. And
yes, it's really more, it wasn't born in the intention to have a relationship with my mom. It was really born in my own struggle to find the light and find the air in my own life. But then once I found enough peace in myself, then I was less, then I was more willing to have things not be the way I had dreamed or, wanted or needed at some point things to be. So I no longer needed anything from her, right? And that opened up possibilities. But so back to your question about, when I decided, so it's at some point on that journey, I decided I want to help other people get some of this gold as well, and so not everyone's willing, to let go, to do the journey, to really, but hey, I'm there for those who are willing. And I can tell you the view from the top is really amazing. So
do you find that's affected? I mean, that's such a beautiful story that I have difficulty not crying at listening to it, but it's very powerful. And do you find that that's affected your whole philosophy on life?
Oh yeah. Like, one of the things that happened along this journey is my husband, with who we have 4 children together, but we separated and got divorced. And I now, have a relationship with a man that's, mostly everything I want from a relationship, and that certainly wasn't accessible to me when I was trying to get the love that my mom didn't give me.
So you felt it was that, just to give me some time frame, was that after your mum passed away that?
No, it's it's in the interim. I mean, the story with my mom is kind of, I tell that to kind of close the loop with, my mom doesn't understand me, and then to close that loop. But things were gradual for me.
Sort of healing yourself and nurturing yourself. And in doing so, you started to see what your needs were.
Exactly. And so, so I stress that, because it's not, you start someplace that you don't like, and then you have to do this whole big journey to get your rewards. No, the rewards come, along the way. the rewards come along the way. Sometimes the rewards are also hard to take, because you're so wedded to a view of the world, and to a view of other people. And so when something good happens, sometimes it's actually hard to, oh, this is what I wanted, but now I have to let go my story, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting. If I could pause and expand, can you give me an example? I think that is so spot on for so many of us. Could you give an example of you sort of growing into this, and then something does come in your way, and was it a matter of you not seeing the opportunity or just walking past it?
Well, I don't know if you tell me if this is an answer to your question, but I'll tell you what came to my mind. So it's a moment after, one of my numerous therapy sessions where I'm at home, I'm sitting on the office floor and I'm sobbing. Like I'm realizing suddenly how I was going about it the wrong way, whatever it was, trying to find, creating my life, basically. I was going about it the wrong way. And it's not, I don't know how much I can unpack that in words, but it's really the experience of like, it was doomed from the start. Like, but you have to be able to stomach that. Like, you have to be able to stomach that, right? In order to have something new accessible, you have to be able to say, this isn't working. But if, 30 years, 40 years, sometimes 60 years, of looking for, I want it this way, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to get it. And then, if you have to let go what you've been so invested in, you have to be able to stomach that. So again, I mean, all I can say to people is the view from the other side is, makes it really worth it, but you still have to be able to stomach it. So. Right.
Yes, I think it does in part answer my question. Really, it's that it was a beautiful example of letting go when you suddenly realize, and sometimes tears can be a great release, can't they? Just to help you see that. But you're right, it can be, and our stories can adopt them as part of our persona, and to let go of them is a very brave step, really, to say, well, it doesn't serve me anymore, you can go. So in letting, so really for you, I think I'm hearing that as you started to realize it in steps, incremental steps, as you let it go, even though it was uncomfortable at times, even though it was painful, even though you had to see, oh my goodness, I've done this for X many decades, and I'm having to notice that actually it was really not helpful to me at all. But in letting that go and acknowledging it, then you were able to receive something a bit more positive into your life.
Yeah. And I mean, there's not, one day I sob and then the next day everything's clear. I tell this as a vignette of my growth process, but I think it was really an important time in my growth process that, that time that I was kind of coming to terms with the fact that, oh my God, like it wasn't going to work. And at that time, it had a lot to do with my relationship with my husband, right? Who I was trying to get the love from him that I didn't get from my mom. Well, duh. That wasn't going to work.
So
it didn't. It didn't.
Is that how that realization helped the two of you realize that it wasn't working? I mean, I don't want to go deep into that, it's obviously private, but simplistically, is that what helped you see?
Yeah. And the, the benefit from that. And again, like, I keep stressing that the view from the other side is really good, but I'll give an example of that. I mean, now we still have the same 4 kids together, right? They're all much older, but we have a really working, well-working co-parenting relationship.
Wow. That's fantastic.
That, a lot of divorced couples
don't,
and don't, and how that hurts the kids. And so I'm not saying, for my kids, there was no hurt from the separation or what, but, we're really partners in terms of raising our kids. Whenever something comes up with the kids, we don't talk about anything else, but we don't need to.
No. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful resolution. I don't think anybody could hope for a better outcome of a divorce, because there's, as you say, there's always pain in some way, but to still continue to talk constructively for the sake of the kids is a wonderful resolution. So that's a lovely coming out of the other side, I think you're saying. Lovely. So so now do you feel it's still part of the journey, and is this what has propelled you very much to go online to reach other people so that they can connect and be, you know, help to find their own happiness, their own true selves?
Yeah, the drive for me to go online is probably rooted in the fact that I'm bilingual, I'm bicultural or multicultural. I mean, I have an American passport, a Belgian passport, I speak French and English. I live here in a village in France, which is not the image of me, if you want. And so, how do I want to say, the internet is a big wide world where I can reach more people who might be looking for a profile like mine. So I get requests for things on my website, and people who specifically picked me because I speak French and English, and they're maybe in France, but they want to be able to say some things in English, or maybe they're French abroad, but they, so the drive to be online is more that, my profile might be appealing for people much more broadly than in my local community.
Sure.
So, I'm not sure I answered your question. Please ask it again if I didn't.
No, that's absolutely fine. And so, but the drive really, do you find that it keeps you going, that your particular journey, which is a really powerful story, keeps you motivated to help other people with their happiness?
Well, really, I have to say it does, and in these troubled times of the pandemic, like I think in England, you've had, a calendar not completely unlike the one that we've had in France. And so there's been a lot of lockdowns and a lot of restrictions on our freedom. And so I've been kind of here in my, what I see as my privileged situation, because I have now, I've digested all these tools for coping with, almost everything or almost everything I've encountered, let's just say.
Yes.
And so wanting to, use this as a platform to reach out, to let people know that they're not alone, that, and so I like to do live. I usually go on Instagram to do live videos if I have an insight of a sort or another. Now I'm preparing a whole 6 weeks plan on, how to reconcile happiness and pandemic fatigue. And then, I have different programs that I have to help people, but I also try to help people with the content that I put out,
Yes. Lots of different layers so that you can reach people at whatever layer they're.
And some people, that's enough for them. Some people, they read something that, that's going to get them thinking and they're going to do their own journey. And some people need some help. And, I'm totally open to both. Like if some people are happy to just read my stuff and that's good for them, that's cool.
Well, Sonia, that was such a powerful story, and a long journey for you, and a very brave journey, really, because I think all of us that go on the path of self-development and questioning ourselves, it's a brave path, and I think all the audience will agree that it's a fascinating story that's sort of moved you along your path to being a happiness the happiness guide. Would you sum up in a few main nuggets some of the principles that keep you going as far as happiness are concerned? And I know you've got some a free gift that I'm going to put a link to, which is the 5 things that get in your way of your happiness. So is there anything else you want to say about that and happiness?
How do you want, I'm sorry, could you clarify your question? I'm not sure what you're asking.
Sorry, I went too far. Would you say there's some main things for the happiness? So it really, if I summarize some of the things I've taken away, is that it's a powerful story of self-discovery and realizing that happiness is, well, I suppose it's an inside job, isn't it? We are responsible for ourselves and our destiny, and we can't lean on other people for what sometimes they can't give us. So that was a long and painful but powerful journey that you've made, and sometimes that pain is very strong and powerful to help other people. Would you think, have I summed up one of the main pillars, really, that self-dependence on happiness, or have I missed out a few things?
No, well, I think you did a good summary of my journey. It's true, it was a hard journey, and you know, it was brave. Probably it was my natural bravery, you know, whatever. But I want to add to what you said, that the relational aspects of happiness are also really important. Like, I don't know if you've heard, maybe your audience has heard of the Harvard study of adult development. It's sometimes called the happiness study, but it's a study that's been going on for 75 years at Harvard. Mm-hmm. And the conclusion after, you know, 70 or 75 years of the first director, maybe it was, well, anyway, the first director of the study, his conclusion was happiness is love, full stop, or something like that. And so, but to say that the relational aspects are important to your happiness doesn't mean that your happiness lies in other people, but it's also in how, you know, who are the people that you are well matched with, and how to recognize them and how to nourish those relationships, and then how to be with the people who you're not well matched with, so that you don't you don't waste your energy in conflict. The thing that's missing, I would say, from the story I told is that I told you that my mom passed away, you know, a week after that, that tea that I described, but my dad passed away 9 months later. And so I've had a long period of grief recently that, you know, I felt quite equipped to go through, but it was still long. And it was also in the midst of all this pandemic business. And I also, I think, learned a lot about that, about, you know, letting go, about acceptance, about letting things be the way they are, but to also, you know, maybe some of the things you missed, but the things that you had, and, you know, so journey through life, through growth, but also through death. And I think in this period where, you know, a lot of people lost a dear person to COVID in circumstances that weren't so easy because they couldn't, you know, see them or whatever. So yeah, I just want to emphasize that it's a journey, and it's a process like that can apply to all circumstances in life. And some circumstances are legitimately hard, and there's no taking that away. You know what I mean? It's not because I'm going to be your happiness guide that then suddenly it's all going to be fun and games.
Yes.
No, there are some challenging things in life. And what I like to say, I can't remember where I heard this, but where's that contract you signed before you were born that you wouldn't have any problems? You know,
very good point. Yeah.
They shouldn't have problems. So yeah, so journey, you know, introspection. And I actually gave you the 5 steps that I work with people. And, you know, the first is openness. You have to be open to looking at things. And the second is introspection. And you have to be willing to look inside. As long as you're looking outside, as long as the problem's outside, you're stuck with the problem. So The next step is clarity to, you know, to kind of see a bit more clearly, what is your happiness? You know, what are the ingredients of your own happiness? And then comes acceptance, because there's, you know, there's things that are hard to take, and then how do you take them? And then the last step is experience, because, you know, you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't try something new, you're stuck with what you know, basically. So those are basically the 5 steps that run through most of my.
That's lovely. And you're a living model to how they work for you, because if you didn't try the different ideas, you didn't let go, but you didn't try those experiments with your mum, for example, you would never have had those precious, precious moments that will last you, hopefully, your lifetime. And
That's right. That's right.
So it's a very, very beautiful story. And I'm sure you'll all agree, guys, what a powerful story Sonia has, and how important it is to acknowledge the power in your each and individual stories. And now I will put a link to Sonia's free gift, which is sounds wonderful, 5 things in the way of your happiness. So I think we'll all be rushing for that. So I'll put that in the show notes. And before we sign off, just a reminder that each and every one of you has a powerful story, and that in the interviews, we're beginning to see how very much our own journey gives us so much experience. And sometimes, as Sonia has shown, sometimes the really difficult parts of the story are actually the chance for growth as well as the pain, but chance for opportunity, and has powered Sonia with the passion she has to help others to find their happiness. And you can do this too. And story is such a powerful way to connect with people. I will be putting links down in the show notes too, but I have a self-study course, self-paced, using story when speaking. The links are below. And if you want to start weaving story into your speaking, it's a great way to connect with your audience. It's really powerful, because I know that as you were listening to Sonia's story, your heart was tugged, you could feel it. And even if you didn't have the same experiences, we feel that feeling of connection. And Sonia, thank you so much for letting us into such an important and part of your life, and such an important journey. It was an amazing story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne.
Take care, guys, and we'll see you in the next interview. Bye for now.